Manscaped.
Uh-huh.
Have you tried the new equipment that's been sent?
I'm afraid because it says weed whacker. I'm scared.
Maven, Manscaped. What are you thinking about
Love it.
Manscaped, dude?
Love it.
What do you use it for?
Necessity. What don't I use it for? Put it this way. The only hair I have on my entire body is these eyebrows.
Yeah.
That you see. These caterpillars racing to the middle of my nose. That's it.
That is it.
That's all and that's all I want.
That's the
So Manscaped is a must.
We were talking before the show. There's nothing worse than just hair.
Yeah.
Right? Hair on a woman, hair on a man. It's just bad.
Absolutely. And it's the one thing that the older I get, it starts growing more in unwanted areas.
Absolutely.
I hate it.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Uh-oh.
Just going to go out there.
Oh, boy.
Go for it.
You're doing a deed.
Yes.
Again, I don't want you to have to admit this because we, as men, we try not to admit this. But if you're going to go do the deed on a woman, would you rather have her be hairless or a little hair, racing stripe, or
racing stripe,
full retro bush?
Racing stripe.
Retro bush is out.
Yes, thank you.
Retro bush is out.
Yeah.
I don't mind a small, well manicured landing strip. Every now and then, if it's completely, and I'm talking like baby's ass bald, then I start. Where is that pedophilia line? I don't want to wander into that.
That's very interesting.
Like that.
I never thought about that. You're a smart dude. Holy shit.
So if the landing strip is clean enough for the plane to go in smoothly, you're cool with that?
If the landing strip has, like I said, well manicured, you can see both sides. It's not
like blinking lights on both sides of that.
I just don't. I don't want. I don't want the shrubbery going off into unwanted areas on that.
Gotcha.
As well.
Oh, look what you found. Ooh.
I got to be all honest though. Hey, the older I get though, I don't think I can be as
I found it.
Have you ever gone down there and she slowly brings down the underwear? Then
what is
retro?
Absolutely.
You're like, whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm 46.
Like it pops
of
out?
course.
Do you walk out or what do you do?
No, I muster through. I muster up the courage to get
He's
through.
a trooper. Yeah. He's a trooper. Got to give him an A.
Not all heroes wear capes.
Yeah, I
There you
no,
go.
I hear you.
There you
Listen,
go.
I couldn't
Super
say.
Bush.
I couldn't say it. Well, if you have the same beliefs as Maven does, Manscaped could help you.
Absolutely.
The weed whacker.
Absolutely.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that I may have to, go in a room, close the door, and hang out with the weed whacker for a little while.
Yeah, I think you're a retro guy, aren't you?
I like 70s adult films, if that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
But with that,
Ron
we're going to take a
Jeremy,
quick
Batman.
commercial break, and we'll be
Anyway.
back with this wrestling icon, Maven.
One of the great riffs of all time, dude.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Why do I still chuckle at the Maven commercial? I don't know what it is.
You know what, dude? I'm just like, I'm now just like things that always happen. Like if I'm unprepared for something, it throws me off. And
Right.
after the fucking debacle before the show, so if everybody knows, we're trying to build a channel. We're trying to give our audience like more
Variety?
Variety, yes, because we're a variety. Thank you. That's why you start the show. You always get me the right words.
There you go.
And every time we keep, it's like people just don't fucking listen to me, and it's like I know better, but I still allow them their freedom, and every time it just fucks us over. You know what I mean? So now we're walking into this. Now we're on a 90-day warning because we put on something that we should not have put on. And it's like, no one ever listens to me ever. And instead of being boss, I bend backwards,
Yeah, and you know what? You're being a little too liberal with them. Wink, wink.
Yeah, I get you.
Which is surprising because you are definitely an affirmative, productive, without being a dick, hard ass kind of fucking boss.
Because you know what, in my heart, Jimmy, I want this to work for everybody, and including us. Like, I have this ultimate plan, and it just keeps on fucking failing on me. I just, oh my God, I don't understand it. I mean, look, it's some things it doesn't make sense, right? I guess, I guess part of my problem, Jimmy, is I don't read stuff thoroughly enough and try to find loopholes in it, because I see other channels throwing up people's content all the time, and it's like, how aren't they getting flagged? But maybe, maybe it's just live streaming could be the problem. Maybe you have to tape it and then, because again, we're one of the, not many shows go on live streaming. You know what I mean?
Understood, but I was just thinking too, and the answer is probably obvious anyway, but you would think that there would be, judging from our past experiences with YouTube, however, you would think there would be somebody that you could call and ask those questions to, who will give you the accurate answers so you don't have these issues. But as we know, in the past, we weren't exactly, the communication coming from the other end could have been a lot more considerate and efficient.
According to douchebag Joe Lowery, when he was on our channel, he was in contact with YouTube. So I don't know how.
Oh, they must have loved him. They must have loved hearing from him.
I tried to get in contact. I mean, but you know what? The guidelines, because I reread the guidelines after this shit just happened, and it clearly states you can't use third party towards a live stream. Now it says live stream. Now, do you want to take a chance on doing it taped? No, because it says live stream. But is it worth it to me to take a chance and now it and run it? No, it's not worth it.
Not worth it at all. As you recall, it took us 2 years before the Hyatt incident to get 20,000 subscribers, and it's taken another. We're not at 2 years yet, but it has taken considerable amount of time to recoup our losses.
And it's been much harder, Jimmy. To be honest with you,
it has.
People are saying to me like,
it's
taking. The problem is when how many years? Like 7 years ago, YouTube. How long have we been on YouTube? First channel.
Well, we've been on YouTube. The first channel was 4 years ago. It'll be 5 starting in around February, March.
So we started at indie music during the beginning of COVID, right? And honestly, there were people doing this, right? But not as much, right? It was us and other people, and we were live streaming.
Just a few in comparison to today, that's for sure.
Absolutely. But now that's what's taking, there's so many people with their content. And I mean, let's be 100% honest. I mean, as much as we love the show and we love our guests, the pendulum has turned. So we love our family and the people who tune in every week and things like that. But the old school wrestling's dying, right? People have heard the stories. There's no real new stories that could be taken. So it's become more difficult, I think.
You know how I feel about that subject. I feel like it's a hand-me-down and a turnover, like you till a garden every spring. As the older generation of wrestlers, pass on, like I've said to you on the phone when we've had these sorts of conversations, look, at some point, Kevin Owens will be retired. At some point, Chris Jericho, who's probably getting close to retirement, will be retired. There'll be other legends to interview if we choose to continue to do what we've been trying to provide the public, which is an awesome library for years now. So to me, it's a turnover. It's something that if you're patient, we already know how to work our machine here, our show. We're fortunate enough to have tons of fans and people who we now call family that, to the outsider would look like fans. They're not fans, they're friends, they're family. I don't see any reason why that can't continue, because as one goes out the door, another one enters, it's just the sands of time. That's how it works, pretty much. Like discovering Greta Van Fleet.
No,
you know what I mean? It's just like, wow, wait a minute. There's somebody playing real rock and they're not lip syncing and it's totally organic and it's cut in the studio. And then when I hear them live on, one of the primetime shows, they sound great. I'm like, oh, okay. All right.
So anyway, man, back to the whole thing. Now I'm thrown off because now I'm like, we have a show set up today and I've got some videos to show. And I'm like, can I show these videos? I'm going to show them because I think they're okay, but we'll find out. And it's like, it's just, again, it's here's the thing.
Don't show anything from Led Zeppelin. I can tell you what I've learned on YouTube.
Yeah, what have you learned?
You know what I mean? Like, don't ever show anything from Led Zeppelin. Even poor Rick Beato, who has, I think at this point, Mike, like 6 or 7 million subscribers, and he's a musical genius. He's got a great channel. But when he plays, like, and he's a musician too, and an excellent one at that. When he's reviewing like the greatest guitar riffs, right? He'll be allowed to play certain famous bands. You'll hear the guitar riff, right? And then it comes to Zeppelin, and they show him in the studio not fully playing the Whole Lot of Love intro guitar riff, because Jimmy Page will have none of that. You are not to use Led Zeppelin at all. That's just one example. But
so everybody knows we're now on a 90-day warning on YouTube. Facebook has been hitting us with monetization on every video, even though how old they are, everything else. So it's a bit of load. It's been a load of fun. Side note, dude. So let me ask you something. I don't know what it is. So we had Miami Sweet Heat on, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm like in love with these girls, man.
I
gotta say it, dude.
That's what you wanted to tell me.
Lindsay and Lori, man. I mean, Lindsay. So who was the guy? What was the guy's name that was on the show? What was his name?
What, Nigel?
Nigel, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think now that I'm looking at them more since they've been on the show.
Okay.
I think Nigel is with Lindsay. I think they're together. I think they're married, actually, because I'm pretty sure I saw a ring on Nigel's finger.
All right. This is what you're looking for?
Well, because I am like secretly, well, I'm not secret anymore.
It's not,
but
no.
I'm in love with like Lori, man. I am fucking crazy in love with this girl, dude.
Nut job.
Not that she'd have anything to do with this bald fat guy, but I mean, my God, dude. I am like, they are sexy as all hell, both of them, dude.
Oh God, but I hope that they're never cast in that movie Wizard of Oz if they ever do another remake. I'll leave it at that.
What does that mean? What?
You know what that means. You know what that means. Why, you want to set me loose? You really want to? You want to set me loose right now?
God.
Oh, they were, first of all, they were tremendous guests. Love them, and I could see that they really were enjoying themselves and having a great time. Okay, we get to the game. All right. And sure, some of our games in the past were much, much racier than the game we were playing.
By far, dude.
This was PG, I mean, pretty much this game. All of a sudden, it's like I hear the Empire Strikes Back music going on, like dun 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 dun, and boom! There's some letter in the middle of our live telecast telling us we need to stop this game right now. I'm like, looking up at the sky.
You're like, where's this coming from?
I'm looking down at the ground because I don't know if it's good or evil that's invaded the show. I'm like, what is going on? Then you're taking a call live on air. That poor Abe has to mute you because live. This is so important. Look. The people that we were asking about during the game were harmless, like Danny DeVito, for God's sakes, And no, Michael, putting up the Elephant Man is not pushing the envelope. We're having,
dude, I got to be honest with you. You're right. It's not even close to pushing the envelope at all, dude.
I think that the Wizard of Oz reference, pay no attention to that one behind the curtain.
Right.
I suspect that they were afraid that the next names that were going to come up in the game possibly were Kamala Harris, Donald Trump.
You know what, dude? I think you're 100% right. Now
that's my gut on that. But personally, for God's sake, you do not invade somebody's live show to do something like that.
Let me ask you a question.
That's a bad look for the show. That's a bad look for the guests, the people you represent. They're having a great time. You just made everybody look like you didn't make anybody look too cool. Look, it's my opinion. All right. And I think I'm entitled to it.
I also think there is a possibility, being the fact that they're on Paramount, that they did not want them to say it. Listen, let me put it this way. Okay. I like WoW. You know, I love women's wrestling, right? And I like the idea of WoW.
Listen, we both supported fully.
Yeah.
That's why we wanted them on in the first place.
But let's we're honest, right? I wouldn't necessarily say WoW is successful right now, right? I mean, it's it's starting, right? It's almost like
it's starting.
to be fair to AEW and WoW, they're all new starters. They've been around 5 years. Doesn't matter all the money you want. WoW's been around 2 years. Again, I would say most of the people like Jimmy and they kind of enjoy women's wrestling, but it's not really on their forefront. I think I'm more of the minority on that case, right?
You love it. Yeah, absolutely.
And you know what? Look, again, I think not to overstate our value as a team here, but I think our track record states for itself. I mean, from Maven to Ron Shaw to do you know what I'm trying to Tito
Sandman.
We have brought some of these people into the limelight that weren't necessarily in the limelight for a long time.
Oh, then I take back Tito and Sandman.
But you know what I'm trying to say. We've brought we've either resurrected or brought people to relevance, and the reason that's been the case is because people get to see these people in a different light in an area which is not so protected by a bubble. And they see a funny side of that. And again, I think WoW should realize what they actually have in Lindsay and Lori, right? And go with it, right? Number one, they're heels. Right. Number two, they're two beautiful women. Right. And I don't mean to be, sexist. Right.
But you're allowed to state facts.
Right.
Keep going.
Right. They're good wrestlers. They've got really good mic skills. Yeah. Let them show their side that people don't see them. And you see them on our show having fun, looking at people and saying, and again, if we were able to finish the game, you and I were at the end. Right. See, right? So it was like there was a whole skit to this.
The joke's on us at the end of the day.
Exactly. We didn't even get to that point with them. But anyway,
no, Mike, really, I got to get this. I'm sorry, I got to get this in though, because to me it's very important. You mentioned before how we've helped relaunch or planted a seed for someone who was either inspired and got out there again, or
I like the word inspired. We've inspired,
or started something completely fresh for them in their career. And I will never forget, because just in case people think that we're just like, overestimating our ability to inspire somebody, I will never forget the day that Disco Inferno came to the studio years back. Okay. Disco Inferno was a great guy, by the way, to me. Okay. I thought he was a wonderful dude. He was really cool, very smart guy. Right. And he sits down on the couch and it's pre-show and he sees us with the notes. And we have our script, and you know how what we do with our scripts, So we're looking over the scripts, and he's sitting there, and he's like, and I can feel his wheels turning. I'm one of them. I can tell. I can feel somebody when they're thinking something, And he was like, he said to us, he's like, "You guys have scripts?" And we were like, "Yeah, it's a loose blueprint, but yeah, it's good to be prepared and know what you're going into." And then we went outside for a smoke. Wink, wink. And he was talking to me more. He was asking me questions. And I was like, I explained the dynamics and how much of the business end that you so efficiently take care of. And I organically like to spin off of what I see on a script and let it go just naturally. I said, in between the two of us, it's a tremendous balance. I was like, because you got to have two different takes. The next thing I know, and he's thinking, man, I can see him thinking. The next thing you know, it was Conan and Disco. And I know damn well, and it's okay, he could say, no, he's not, blah, blah, blah. I know what I felt that day, and I saw a good guy who was processing what he was witnessing through watching what we did that day. And boom, there's Conan and Disco, And we've seen it with other guests that we've had on where they came on, then they want to try the podcast world. What did Lanny say to us? You remember what Lanny said. Lanny got the idea because he saw us. He was like Lanny Poffo. He was like, oh, well, maybe I should try this. And then like a month later, what did he do? He calls you. He's like, "This is hard."
You know, that's a legitimate
this stuff
true
happens.
story. JP
Yeah.
Zarka, I think, hooked up and they made the Genius Cast, right?
Right.
And Lanny, you know, it was doing pretty well, right?
Of course.
Lanny was telling his Lanny stories,
right.
But just like a lot of times with these wrestlers, they hit a wall, right? Because you've told all your stories,
right?
And unless you're look, I'm not a fool. You're not a fool. Unless you're a Dutch Mantel or Kevin Nash,
right?
Also who have hosts that could help them go
Provide
along,
balance,
right? I mean, you know, the Kid James is a good. He's a good host. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. He's a good host.
Right.
You know, Sean Oliver is a fucking OG, right? The guy's got his shit together.
Right.
So you've got a combination of guys who could speak and a good host. But most of these wrestlers, they hit a wall, and it's like
they do.
I watch some of these shows, Jimmy, and I mean, you know, I love Ted DiBiase, okay? But again, this D'Angelo guy does Jake the Snake, and he does. My thing is, where do you find, like, how does a wrestler decide on their host? And that's what we asked Francine when they were in, and she said, "Oh, they just gave me this guy." I think that's what she said. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I see some of these guys, it's like, how many questions can you ask these guys? Nash is successful because Nash can go every which way, and they always just, you know, sprinkle some wrestling in, and you know, some people don't like it, obviously, because they just want to hear their wrestling talk, and then other people like it, right? And I mean, but I mean, let's talk about Marty, right? I love Marty. You love Marty. When Marty came, he's like, I want to do a podcast. He actually asked us to host a podcast at one point, and I was like, can't do it, right? Because first of all, Marty's very hard to control, right? Marty's a free thinker, man. And a lot of people try to make fun of him in a lot of ways for whatever, you know, because he acts goofy sometimes. The dude he's a very smart guy. And he's very opinionated, and he's very type A personality. If you don't think Marty Jannetty's a type A personality, you're wrong. And when they hooked up with this guy Savage, right? Again, not knocking this dude Savage, but the dude couldn't host. He couldn't host. He couldn't keep. And again, keeping Marty on track is hard, right? Because Marty is Marty, right?
Right. Well, to give the kid across the pond some credit too, let's not forget he's also good when he's done shows with other guys too. He's able to do both. You know, you have to have that balance with the co-host one way or the other. I'll tell you something else too that you mentioned. That look, Nash is smart. You do want to talk about some current stuff. Why do you think Bubba Ray is? You know, he can mix it up because he talks about current stuff. It is the opposite of what you said happens to most of them. When you run out of stories, now you got to stay creative. Now you got to do a Monte and the Pharaoh.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
And that's so back to Lanny. Lanny's flat out said, "I can't do what you guys do." That was hard. An exact conversation. I can't do it. It's too much work. It's too hard. And there was nothing wrong with him saying that, right?
No, he was, you know, Lanny was always cool with us. He was just like, this is hard. I was laughing. I was like, this is hilarious. He's like, you know, no, thanks. I enjoyed it for a short time, and that's enough. I can't.
I want to thank everybody who's hanging out with us at 10 o'clock at night right now.
Thank you.
We were on Thursdays. We had to work with Abe to produce for us on Fridays, so we moved to Fridays, and we shoot at 7:30 and 9 o'clock.
Right.
But, you know, we're attempting to build a channel and give more variety to people. And we had a show that was making its debut today, which ended up getting us a 90-day warning because they broke rules. And anyway, me and Jimmy pushed ourselves off to 9:30. And so, again, we appreciate it. Who had joined us. I want to go. First of all, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I want to say happy Thanksgiving to you, Jimmy. I know you were working, so that's got to be a little bit of a tough gig. Everybody's eating turkey, but you know, got to work. Right? Just the way it is. Thoughts on last week's show with Big Ron Shaw making his third appearance? What were your thoughts, Jimmy?
Oh, well, talk about learning to love somebody after the smooth beginning with Ron Shaw, as we all recall. Mike, which was your fault, not mine, which you tried to lay on me last week or the week before.
You always got to take blame. Star of the show's always got to take blame, Jimmy.
Yeah. Just a very, very in tune kind of person. I mean, sorry, folks, if you don't agree with his political takes, but I do. I think he's as sharp as can be. It's nice to see that he's a success later in life. You know what I mean? We've seen so many that just don't know how to handle money or success or whatever. And I think my favorite comment that Ron made was when he told Paul Fallaroma and Manwini that I've accomplished more in my career than both of you combined. Boy, oh boy, did I get that was nice. I was like,
well,
man,
Ron wrote me, and he was invited on to Hannibal's show coming off our show.
Oh, what a surprise!
I think with
Hannibal.
Yeah, I know, what a surprise, right?
Yeah,
with with the host of I think they call it Cheap Heat with Jack Kilby, the EVP of North American Championship Wrestling. I don't know,
everybody.
These fucking guys, man. You don't even, Jimmy, you don't even know what goes through my head with this shit.
Oh, I got a feeling I do.
I am the EVP of Canadian North American Championship Wrestling. My name is Jack Kilby.
Must invent myself. Need to be more than basics. I can't. I just can't. Fire hot.
And so fill me in on this. We had a little bit of a meltdown on Dustin Rhodes, and your wife wasn't happy about that, right? Well, you took part of it with me, but you took part of it, right?
My statement was that I agreed with what you were saying, but I might not use the same language you did.
Yes, I understand.
As far as his personality, you know. Well, if I may, I mean, Karen was like, "Did you know that Dustin took care of that child most of his damn life?" And I thought to myself, well, you know that family very well, and I am not about to argue that. So it sounds to me like perhaps Terry might have been pounding the wine a little bit too much that night.
Well, again, you know, with all due respect to your lovely wife, right? She only knows what she thinks she knows, right? And
okay,
you know, and Terry only, you know, again, I'm not saying that she's not right. She only knows what she thinks. There's two sides to every story. And you know, I would hate, again, who would ever think a pro wrestler would lie about something? I don't know. I don't think that's possible. But you know, I'm not saying that's not the case.
Right.
But let me put it this way.
Or a pro wrestling diva, by the way.
There you go. Now, I will reiterate, Jimmy, that what I said, I meant, because when we were standing in line, I saw Dustin Reynolds. I said I was a big fan of Goldust. And I was being reminded in my head, recapping what Terry Reynolds has said. And I'm like, oh, I don't really like. Dude, by the way, hold on. I got SmackDown on. And now at the end of SmackDown, they put credits, producing credits,
rolling end credits.
It's kind of like flat, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my god, because TBS used to do that, but it's like I don't know if I like that in wrestling. But anyway, back to the main subject. When I'm looking at him and seeing how he's acting, I was like, this is the guy that Terry Reynolds described in that interview.
Right. Well, you were flashing back to the interview. I wasn't thinking about the interview.
I understand that.
I was watching him, though, and I agree with you about when the poor woman came up that was obviously physically challenged. That I totally agreed with, you know, and he did pop right up when Teal Piper came over.
Yeah, that was the one that bothered me the most, man, because that was like, there it is. But there it is. Though? She's important. They're not.
Let's get to the point of origin. Your irritation during the situation, and who was truly causing that irritation was Captain Kirk, who made us wait while he was in the bathroom for an hour.
Well, you know, dude, I think we explain ourselves really well when we discuss things.
Yeah,
and we still get fans that come on, and like there's some guys like, Give it a break. Shatner's 93. Did you not listen to what the fuck we were saying? It's like if you're 93 and it doesn't stop you from shaking someone's hand, showing a fan respect, or better yet, if it's the last place on earth you really want to be,
then don't be there.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
And if I can add, I spoke, it's Thanksgiving after all yesterday. I spoke to my mother. I called my mother. And of course, she immediately, with the election, I'm like, Mom, let's change the subject, please. We got to change the subject. But I told her about Shatner. And she says, how old is he? And I said, 93. And she goes, I wouldn't care if he was 193. If you're going to charge people, you better give them what they paid for.
Good for your mother. Good for your mother. You know what? Now that makes me happy. I mean, it's common sense, dude. To me, it's common sense. And by the way, did we talk about did we talk last week about the girl with the Michael Myers tattoo on her arm at this event?
No, I don't think you did. So right, at the convention, as we were at I think we were at our table. She was standing on a line. And Mike turns to me. This was classic. And he goes, who the fuck puts Michael Myers on their goddamn body? And I look and I see that this chick has Michael Myers on her arm, like all the way down. I was like, wow, okay.
Well, there's a couple of things wrong with that woman, right? Again, God, listen, God's going to get me in the end because I constantly judge, right?
Dude,
and I shouldn't be judging.
Wait. This is important because you go to church. You go to church every Sunday. It does say, thou shalt not. Sorry, Mike. I know you have a few yourself. Thou shalt not tattoo.
Wait a minute.
What I have made.
Forget the tattoo. How about now? If you've got a pouch stomach, thou shalt not wear a half shirt. I'm like, oh my God, girl. It's like, dude, get a clue.
I learned the
fucking clue.
I learned the hard way. We were on ESPN, and I saw that comment, and you put a laugh out loud when they were like, "Pharaoh needs to buy a bigger shirt, because that shirt is too small on me, and it's showing all my imperfections." I was like, "Oh shit!"
But I mean, some people are fucking clueless. And by the way, the girl had Michael Myers, and it was such a great looking. It was great tattoo.
Oh, it was excellent.
But it's like, hey, what job are you getting with a Michael Myers tattoo, dude? Really? Come on, stop it already.
What are you talking about? During the seasonal time of year, you're in.
Oh my God, fucking freaks!
I hope you save your money the rest of the year.
So I'm going to show you something. So staying on the Dustin Reynolds thing, Jimmy and I were on. If you have this building, anyway, we were on the farthest end of the building, on the left side, and if you looked straight ahead to our left, I don't know if I'm explaining that right. Is MJF. So all the main stars are on the back wall. So we're the last table or second to last table from the back wall. Directly to our left is MJF.
Right.
Now, me and Jimmy did a lot of walking, so we missed some stuff. But I've pulled some video from the big event. And Jimmy, I want you to watch this video, and I want to know if you think this is appropriate.
Absolutely.
Are you serious?
That's him being in character.
All right. Hold on. Wait.
I told you what he did that you missed it too. I don't know if I told it on the air. He stood up at one point and announced to the line, "Listen up. I'm going to go take a shit right now. If I don't come back, oh well." And he fucking walked off, and they're clapping.
All right, hold on. I want you to watch this again. I want you to go. You're Jimmy Pharaoh. You're a fan.
Should I put my glasses on? I mean, am I missing something here?
You spent your $300 on WWE Network for this belt. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Plus $100, $99 shipping. And hold on. I mean, he throws the shit on the floor, dude.
Okay, I'll put it this way. He's lucky that fan wasn't Mike Monty. How's
Thank
that
you.
sound?
You know what? You're right. Because I would have said, "Are you fucking kidding me right now, guy?"
Yeah, we would have had a problem. Yeah, we would have had a problem.
Fuck that.
I get it. I get it. And you know what? To be fair, I'm laughing because it didn't happen to me either. Because if it happened to me, I would probably.
Well, did you see the kid on the video? Not a kid. He's like a man. He's like, oh, he threw my belt on the ground. It's like, dude, stand up for yourself. Say something like, hey, motherfucker, I just spent $400 on this fucking thing.
He's in character, and how many times have we referred to the fact that there are worshipers out there? They're not just fans; they're worshipers. Let me tell you something. MJF could probably taken a dump on his belt that he got in the mail, and he would have been like, "MJF pooped on my belt."
All right, so and I'm being serious here, dude. If a guy stays in character, right?
Yeah.
You think the character has a right to like destroy someone's property? Meanwhile, the kid. Wait a minute. The kid spends $400 on a belt, right? And then he spends another $150 for MJF to take a picture with it, right? And he throws the belt on the ground.
I don't know why do I find it so funny?
I am in shock. You find that funny, man.
I think it's really, you know what? It's really a perception. You know, I can 1,000% see why you would do that, and I'd probably be mad too. But I can also 1,000%. I can hear Phil, Mr. President, Phil DeCesare right now going, it's wonderful that he's one of the so few that keep the old ways in part of his practice. I can hear it.
Or is it just a case that it's funny as long as it doesn't happen to me type of shit?
You know what? We should ask Phil. Hey, Phil, if it happened to you.
Like, what would you do, Phil?
Yeah, Phil's pretty big, you know? Who knows? Who knows?
No,
Phil's in the news for putting MJF in a front face headlock. It's like, uh-oh.
All right, so we got so the main show is about the 10 greatest tag team breakups, but before that I want to hit a news item with you. Art teacher 60 dies of rabies after bat bites her in classroom. She was trying to scoop it up, in quotations. A California middle school teacher has died after she was bitten by a bat inside her classroom. Leah Seneneg, I hope I'm saying that right. I mean, mispronounce the dead. Wounded after was wounded after she unexpectedly found the animal in a classroom at Bryant Middle School in Dos Palos back in October. Laura Splotch, Senega's friend, told a local ABC affiliate, "I don't know if she thought it was dead or what caused it to be lying around her classroom. She was trying to scoop it up to take it outside," Splotch told the outlet. She didn't want to harm it, but that's when I guess it woke up and saw the light or whatever. Thoughts on that, Jimmy?
Oh, I have a bizarre thought on that. Where was Mr. Zimblicki, the greatest custodian that ever lived back in John Glenn? I mean, don't you?
The shit you pull out of your fucking
Well, don't you go ask for the custodian or the maintenance? You don't touch the animal. You know, I would know better than to touch the animal anyway, especially if it appears like, if the bat's not moving at all. Bat could be injured, bat could be dead. Who the hell knows? It's a bat. It clearly carries rabies. It's like finding a possum or a rat. You don't go over and scoop it up.
Dude, I didn't think people died from rabies. I thought once you got a bite, you would go take a rabies shot, a couple in the stomach, and you're good to go.
That's the way it's followed with dogs, but I certainly don't know the protocol involved for a bat bite. I can't say I do.
And they're like bats, they all carry rabies. I mean, that's a little surprise to me too.
They're rodents. I mean,
dude, life is so precious. You just don't know when it's going to end. It's
a strange way to go out, Mike. I'll tell you that. It's sad, And she wasn't trying to harm the animal, so she obviously look. I wouldn't have tried to harm the bat either, but you know how I feel about animals, and I know how you do too. So, very sad.
Let me ask you a question. The bat. I gotta get my hand up here. The bat.
Yeah.
The squirrel.
Yeah.
And the rat. Rank them in order of destroying.
Of destroying?
Yes.
What do you mean by destroying?
So you have a bat, you have a squirrel, and you have a rat. Which one are you killing first?
Which one am I killing first?
Yeah.
If logically would probably unfortunately be a rat.
Now, why? That's my question. Why?
Well, you know,
why
you really
does a
don't
rat
want...
outshine the squirrel and the bat?
Well, a rat is usually something that winds up infiltrating your house, and nobody wants rats running around. I'm not talking about myself personally, but yeah, I really wouldn't want a rat running around. I'd probably try to find a way to get him the hell out the door. But you know, look, in general, rat traps, we've seen them. You know, so I guess
Because you understand where I'm going with this. A rat, a squirrel, and a bat are all
right.
pretty much the same thing. They're just like a squirrel is a rat with a furry tail.
They function differently as far as their abilities. You know, what they can do. I mean, after all,
explain to me what abilities.
A bat can fly. I
Okay,
mean,
that's
period.
fair. That's easy to
You
figure
know,
out. What's the difference between a
I've
squirrel and a
actually
rat?
always been jealous of bats and birds in general. I would love to spread my wings and just take a cruise over the top of this town.
Did you ever dream like you were flying?
Yes,
And you
constantly.
were flapping
That's
your
weird.
arms? Yeah,
No,
me
I
too.
wasn't flapping my arms. It was the strangest dream, and I would have it constantly as a kid. You know, you're freaking me out here. It was a consistent dream, and it was always I was flying, but I didn't see myself, and I wasn't flapping my arms or anything. Well, I could see the grass, and I was literally flying over grass. It was my view. It was coming from my eyes in my dream. So it was me watching grass just, and I knew I was flying. I had the feeling that I was flying, and it was a strange dream that I always had as a kid. I don't get that one anymore. Now I get the repetitive one that where it's a bunch of strangers, and they're the same strangers in every dream, and we're always in different situations. I feel like I'm on The Walking Dead when I go to sleep. It's so weird.
I've had the flying dream, but a little bit different than you. But I'd be flapping my arms. I'll be honest.
He's
As a kid,
flapping
I
his
was
arms.
constantly flapping my arms, and I was like
Interesting.
flying. Anyway, if you
Interesting.
didn't know, you were watching Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh. Catch Monte The Pharaoh on the Monte The Pharaoh YouTube page and Monte The Pharaoh Facebook Live page. Hear us on Believe Network. That's our distributor on the audio side, but we could also be heard on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor. You catch Monte The Pharaoh on the Monte The Pharaoh Twitch TV page. And if you're craving more Monte The Pharaoh and you're lucky enough to live in New York, you can catch us on Friday nights at 11:30 p.m. on channel 115. So this is Friday night. So at 11:30, if you're still hanging around after this show, you can catch us. Saturday nights at 11 p.m. on channel 115. Get ready for another round of excitement after your weekend adventure. And then early Friday morning, which is past already, 12:30 a.m. So that'd be like right after midnight on Thursday on channel 20. What are you thinking about that lineup? There, where that cable's #1 show, and they have jacked us around on different time. We can't catch a break, dude. Like, I'm okay with the first two. I fucking hate that third slot on channel 20, man.
Right. You don't think it's our political viewpoints, do you?
I have no idea. But join the Monte The Pharaoh revolution, where 150,000 viewers are watching us weekly, and you know those 150,000 viewers can't be wrong. We're going to take a quick commercial break where Jimmy and I will come back and we will discuss the top 10 best tag team breakups. Not worst, but best. I guess a breakup would be worst or best. What, Jimmy? What do you think?
Oh, how about the 10 most notable? Let's leave it at that, you know, or, you know, it's not an easy list, by the way, Mike. That was a tough job on your part, but we should have a lot of fun.
Well, we're going to have a lot of talk.
Yep. We'll be right back after this.
The Monte and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite 4-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
Hey, on the first show, you had mentioned you hurt your back and stuff like that. And one thing I wanted to share with you, dude, is see this wallet?
Yeah. You mean like, wait, hold on. You mean like this big lumpy one that I sit on?
Yeah, pull that thing out.
Dude, this thing's the fucking eyesore of the world. Everything is, where's the camera? See, I'm just like you. Look at this. It's got like hair things sticking out of it because it's so old and withered. And everything I put into it, watch what I could do with it. Hey,
Exactly. It's flimsy.
Everything falls the fuck out. Now, this is my fault, by the way, because I can't seem to find a decent wallet. Do you have any tips?
Well, it's funny you brought that up,
This is
man. And this is
ridiculous.
why we've got
Get
back
out of here.
problems. So for old men like us, and even for young people, I ran into this company called Ridge, right?
Okay.
Ridge.
I like the name to begin with.
RIDGE, right?
Yeah,
look at this wallet, right? Carries everything you need, right? And
It's
look at this.
compact.
It's compact, and just like this, you push down, you fan it out. You need a credit card, I got to pay for something. Just that easy. I go pay it, boom, put it right back in. And guess what?
You can just flip out and have multiple choice that easy?
That easy. Look how easy this is. And you know how stupid I am. You see how easy that was to fan out just like that, man?
Yeah.
Look at that, dude.
I'm stupider, but yeah, I get it. Okay.
And then you got
awesome
the cash right on the back here. And guys, look, this episode is sponsored by Ridge. And if you use the promo code YouTube10, that's YouTube 10, you receive 10% off any Ridge product. Guys, I'm telling you, man, look at the difference. Look at the difference. You've got to use Ridge. Monte and the Pharaoh are telling you, please support Monte the Pharaoh. And guess what? They've got other cool stuff. Because I'm an asshole, I just dropped it. Hold on.
It's all the way over there.
Only Monte will do this, folks. They also sell.
How's your back? You okay picking that thing up?
Well, since I've been using Ridge, my back is like 100% better. Right. Also, dude, check this out. From Ridge, I ordered this. Right, I know you're recently married, right?
Yeah.
24-karat gold-plated ring. Look how beautiful that thing is. Right, Ridge.com. Again, use YouTube 10 to receive 10% off. And guess what? If you're a working man and you're working with electric, you don't want to be using gold. You want to burn yourself. They also come with a nice rubber ring that you can wear.
They got those.
We all know the wives.
Yeah,
that's right. And the wives don't want to, they get pissed off if you stop using their shit, right? Or showing you married, because that's some hot girl. She doesn't see you married. She's jumping all over your shit. Especially if you're using the Ridge wallet, dude.
Nice.
Look at that. Look how thin that thing is, Jimmy.
Does it come in different colors and stuff? I mean,
you know what? You're brilliant. And guess what they just came out with? NFL team Ridges.
Ooh.
So if you're a Jet fan and you want to show your Jet color, or you're a Yankee fan, you can wear your Yankee fan Ridge.
Okay.
So anyway, I recommend that. And
very nice. Well,
thank you
to Ridge.
Going up. Thank you to Ridge. I agree.
Thank you very much.
Hey, on the first show. All right, buddy. I'm back. You're back. Welcome back.
We're back.
All right, buddy. So coming off the possible breakup of the New Day, they've been teasing this for probably close to 2 months now, right, Jimmy?
A little while. Yep, correct.
What are your thoughts on them finally possibly pulling the trigger and breaking up the New Day?
Good. Never a fan of never a fan of the New Day in the first place. Hey, look, I'm not taking anything away from them. They were the Usos' main rival, and it went on for a decade, correct? I mean, it was.
Well, one thing I like about today's wrestling is nothing is so cut and dry, right? So, like last week, Kofi and Xavier were fighting, and they all had great points. And one was like Kofi talking about for the reason Big E and him never took Xavier's words or his guidance is because the guy was like basically a failure, right? He never did anything on his own. And Xavier was going back and forth about Kofi being about Kofi. And it's like, as a fan, it's like, they both have such good points on their stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, Kofi and Big E went on to become world champions, and Xavier never became a champion. So that is a legit point. And if you're Xavier, it's like, F you. You know how many times I was an integral part of the New Day? Who the fuck you talking to?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think it's great. It's great stuff. Xavier to me would be the likely bad guy in this situation. Agreed, Mike? I would tend to think that if anybody's going to be the heel, it'd probably be Xavier. You know, I don't think Kofi would make a very good bad guy, quite honestly. And do you have any idea where Biggie is at as far as health? Is there any chance of him ever returning? Or, I mean,
I actually heard he was returning this week on
really?
Raw. I'm not
Okay.
exactly sure of it, but
Okay. Well, how would you like to see it play out if Mike Monty is writing the script? And how are we working this one out, Mike? Let's play Booker, and not the 5-time guy either.
Question is, who is the bad guy here?
Xavier.
Who's going to take the role of
I
the
feel
bad?
it should be Xavier. Kofi is just too damn adorable to his audience. I don't think he would make an effective bad guy. He could prove me wrong. I mean, he's very talented, but I feel like Xavier is the natural fit for that one. What do you think?
No, I think you're right. The question is, what kind of legs does this get? Because we're going to get into the top 10 greatest or relevant tag team breakups. And most of the time, the shit doesn't work. So it's
Right.
like, okay, you
Right.
break up, you have a feud, and then what?
Right. Agreed. Because tag teams, if they're, and I'm assuming that the ones that'll be on the list will be like, some of the great tag teams of all time, one way or the other. It's how they break up. And the biggest problem is that when you're a great tag team, it's very hard to go on and do what, I hate to say it, what Jey Uso has done, where one of you becomes Sean was the exception to the rule. Look, if Offer and Sika broke up, neither one of them, I don't feel, we're going to be like skyrocketed to the upper tier.
Here's the crazy thing. When you
as
start
great as they
looking at
were.
when you start looking at these tag teams, Jimmy,
Yeah.
you start like, again, we're older wrestling fans. So we're looking at AWA. We're looking at, NWA, Mid-Atlantic. We're looking regional.
Sure.
Dude, I was hard pressed to even find a fucking tag team that broke up in any of those areas. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's a rare occurrence. That's why when I looked at the ideas that we were throwing around during our conversations during the week, I was like, man, this is a rough one. This is not easy, like naming the top 10 greatest tag teams of all time or the top 10 intercontinental champions of all time or anything. This was not as loaded as I thought it would be, as far as, wow, look at all these breakups of these massive guys who went on to be more massive and all that. There's not a lot of them on that list.
Well,
I don't think.
At number 10, I put one of your favorite tag teams, not your favorite tag team, and that would be Team 3D, the Dudley Boys. We do remember when they broke up, right, Jimmy? What were your thoughts when they broke up?
Annoyed. Didn't agree with it. Although, Bully went on to do other good things, as Bully Ray and TNA and stuff. And I enjoyed Aces and Eights. I'm sorry. If people disagree, I did enjoy the whole Aces and Eights thing. Solo career never did Devon any favors. Remember the Reverend Devon thing? I'm like,
awful.
Oh my God.
That was so bad.
Oh my God.
So
very irritated that they broke up. My second all-time favorite tag team behind Demolition. Very irritated. You just leave that stuff alone. What are you doing? That's the Dudley Boys. All right. They were legends before they even got into WWE and did nothing but further enhance it. They are one of the greatest ever. They're innovators. TLC. You know the history. This is the Dudley Boys.
Right.
Leave the Dudley Boys alone. What the fuck are you doing? So I hated it.
I think
Hated it.
I think at some point you always got to break up a team, right?
At some point,
right?
Right.
But again, epic fail. I mean, Bully Ray went on to be successful in TNA.
Right.
But as his WWE career as a singles guy, epic fail for both of those wrestlers, right?
Right. Agreed. I mean, at the end, I don't know about epic fail because I'm probably kinder to TNA than you are. You know what I mean?
Well, my only point is, again, I'm not a fan of Bully Ray, and I'm just being honest.
Understand.
As a WWE, if you're gonna measure yourself,
if you just stay with WWE,
he was a failure, right? He was nothing. As a TNA guy, he did fine. And you know what? Let's be honest here. If Vince McMahon saw anything in the Bully Ray character at all, he would have brought him to the WWE. And obviously he saw nothing, right?
Right. What he saw was what he liked and what he booked, and deservedly so. He saw the Dudley fucking boys.
What did he bring back the Dudley boys after Bully Ray's run in TNA as a tag team?
The Dudleys came back and had a farewell tour. The Dudley boys were received with open arms by the fans. The fans loved the Dudley boys.
So basically, we could say that they were the greatest, if not the greatest tag team of all time. That's up for debate, but hard to argue. But as singles wrestlers, failures.
In WWE, agreed.
All right.
Yeah.
Number 9, Kevin Steen and El Generico are now known as Sami Zayn.
Kevin Owens. Yeah, I remember this stuff because I'm nerdy with the wrestling, and I used to watch Ring of Honor all the time and stuff, and I loved El Generico, obviously, but I really loved Kevin Steen. I was very, very intrigued with Kevin Steen from the very first time I watched him. Their breakup in Ring of Honor was epic, but understand that it's Ring of Honor, and I know you know what I'm saying when I say that to you, Mike. I think of all the millions of times they've broken up as Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn as well.
Right.
They have probably one of the longest, most intense friendships, quote unquote, in the history of this business on script. You know what I'm saying? I mean, name me someone else that basically goes back to the days of where they really started together and have been paired consistently together, no matter whether they were on the Long Island Ducks or the New York Yankees.
Right.
This is rare. This is rare. This is a great tag team. They are great. Their chemistry together comes from their real life friendship. When they break up, you know how good they both are as performers, whether they're playing a villain or a face. Although Sammy's not really a villain ever when you think about it. Sammy's just, like Kofi in a way. But Kevin, the diversity of Kevin to either be loved or cheered, and we've seen both levels. He's been loved and cheered, and he's been booed and despised. That's a great pick, Mike, by the way, putting them on that list, especially the initial time that you're referring to from Ring of Honor, and look what it led to. What a career with those two.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is one of the times where a tag team who breaks up becomes highly successful.
Successful individuals. So we have huge thumbs up for both of them, as far as their WWE individual careers. Oh, my God. And their time together in WWE. It's a complete, they hit for the cycle.
I couldn't agree more. Next up, the Steiner brothers.
Wow. Now, are you referring to when Scotty goes to the NWO and turns on Rick?
Yes.
It's weird. I guess at the time, I've never been, although I totally get their place in history, I was never a huge fan of the Steiners as a tag team. I knew how great they were. I wasn't. I'm sorry. I wasn't. Forgive me. There are other tag teams I love. I love the Road Warriors. I don't know what you want from me. I love Demolition War. So hate me for that. Or love me for that. It's your call. It's a free world, folks. So when it happened, understand that Scott Steiner, Rick is in the eyes of this fan, back in those days during the wars of the great Monday Night Wars, I felt that Rick was fading away. Watching him on the card, like slowly fading away. And Scott is turning into one of the coolest figures I have ever seen in this business. Big Papa Pump.
Right.
Oh, my God. So when the turn came, I was like, good. Because I want to see more of where Scott Steiner is heading right now. Scott Steiner was Crash Television before Vince Russo ever even probably thought about it. And it was just waiting to happen. So I was very excited. But, thanks to you, I've always loved the bad guys, the villains, the heels, going back to the days of Morocco and Valentine. I love the NWO. I love the Hogan turn. And now here's Big Papa Pump. Wow.
I always look at it like this, Jimmy. I remember when Rick Steiner was like super hot as a dog-faced gremlin in the end of
great.
Georgia,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then when Scotty first comes and they become the Steiner brothers, you can see Scotty was the real star of the whole.
Rick was the big star first. It's odd, right?
Yeah, but it's almost like it seemed like, the rocker type of thing where
that's what I was thinking.
One's a bigger star, and then all of a sudden the other guy starts to shine, and here you go. And I understand where you're coming from, dude, because I was not a Steiner fan either. Not in WCW, and then when they went to WWE now. I used to love the Frankensteiner because at that time no one did moves like that, right?
No,
so that was like the Jimmy Snuka splash, right? It was like you always waited for that move, and if you didn't get it on your weekly show, you were bummed. But
bro, we go back so far. The Mil Mascara's flying body press.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, exactly.
Failure or success breaking up that team?
Success for Scott Steiner. Failure for Rick. Period.
Agreed.
Period.
Agreed.
Love Big Papa Pump.
But as a promoter,
yeah,
was the right move.
Yeah. In the end, Rick was fading. Rick was definitely fading. It just had ran its course. Nobody. I didn't care. I wasn't like, oh wow, it's Rick Steiner, and in the beginning, the dog-faced gremlin. By the way, I was never a fan of Rick Steiner. It doesn't matter, but I remember in the beginning of the dog-faced gremlin, I recognized that the fans freaking loved him, and he was great at what he was doing. I had nothing to do with nothing. But when Big Papa Pump, is coming around, that's the right move. I think it was the right move.
So the other thing too, dude, the one thing I've never agreed with, because it's unbelievable, brother and brother or sister and sister turning on each other. It's just ridiculously stupid, right? The whole Cain and Abel thing just doesn't really work because it's not really believable to me.
What about Brett? Let me stop you right there. What about Brett and Owen? Come on.
That one worked.
Thank you.
That worked. I would almost, but I'll ask you this: Booker T and Stevie Ray, did that work?
No, because Stevie Ray's not engaging enough. And it's nothing against Stevie Ray. Stevie Ray was a fucking specimen. I would never, ever want to come across Stevie Ray in a dark alley or in a bar or anywhere else.
And I would say that the Steiners didn't work either. It was an afterthought. It was like, now he's in NWO Thunder and Lightning.
The big news wasn't that the Steiners had broken up. The big news was that Papa Pump was in the NWO, right?
Yeah. So you're looking, so far we've gone through 3 teams, and 2 of them have been epic failures breaking up. Right. Here's a team that is near and dear to both our hearts, I believe. And I'll just open up and say the WWE Vince had an envisionment that, well, let's talk about it. I shouldn't even say anything. The Dream Team, former WWE champions who lost to the Bulldogs, ended up breaking up, I believe, at WrestleMania 3, which created Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and Greg the Hammer Valentine's career slowly dissipated until eventually he was just a jobber.
Well, it's another situation like we just spoke of. I didn't consider the last breakup an epic failure because Papa Pump, you asked me if commercially, businessly was the right move to make. It was. Okay. So here's my take on this one. Yes, it's very similar. Unfortunately, Greg Valentine, like Rick, Steiner, it was declining. It wasn't the same anymore. The vibe wasn't there. The interest from the fan base wasn't there. It wasn't being booked as anything important anymore. Some of that, he had no control over, but that's what was going on. Brutus turns into the Barber. I mean, that people can say what they want, and a lot of people, I'm still puzzled by it, Mike, but a lot of people talk really poorly sometimes. I see on the internet of Brutus. Listen, Brutus the Barber Beefcake was a huge star. He wasn't a little star. He was a huge star, and he was a star for a little while. Okay, so and necessarily not. I was not necessarily a fan of the character, but he was always around. My favorite of all. We know who our favorite of all is. Brother. You know,
Brutus Beefcake stood alone by himself, and
he did. He
and
did.
again, I love the clarity you give. You
did.
weren't necessarily a fan, but you cannot deny.
No.
Remember something: if he doesn't get in that parasailing accident,
Right.
Ultimate Warrior is not the Intercontinental Champion. It's Brutus the Barber Beefcake dethroning the honky tonk man.
Everything changes. Everything changes, and you know what? To his credit, even after the accident, and as poorly booked as he was in WCW, at least he still was a specimen.
Right.
Give the man a break, for God's sakes. For those people who
and I'm going to say this too. I was a huge Dream Team guy, and I remember Saturday Night's Main Event, which is returning in December, by the way, to the Nassau Coliseum. It's not the Nassau Coliseum anymore, but they had a 203 falls match with the British Bulldogs, if you remember, and they took the first fall.
Right.
And I remember thinking they're going to win back that title.
I didn't feel it.
I got to be honest with you, Jimmy. I know why they did it now, but I felt that team still had a lot of legs on it.
It did. They were great together, and it's the decline that we speak of happened after the breakup. Right. You know what I mean? So it was So is it an epic fail that they broke the team up, though? Just like the last answer, I can't say that it was, because then we don't get Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
I guess in reality, Jimmy, the way you're breaking it down, even the Dudleys wasn't an epic failure, because the Bully Ray character, at least for the TNA
he did side, great.
He did fine.
He did great.
I think the one thing that happens here is when most teams break up, one of them ends up falling off the table and ended up being nothing, like not nothing, but their career ends. And while the other one goes on to higher values, with the exception so far, Kevin Steen and El Generico, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, right?
You're right. That's been a clean sweep. Oddly enough, what happens to Xavier Woods after all of this? If dude, he's almost done anyway.
I would almost say what happens to the entire New Day if they break up.
Right. Well, Kofi must be getting closer to the end of his career at this point, I would think, even though he can still go. Come on, how old is Kofi now? Let's be honest.
To be honest, Jimmy, the problem with the WWE, too, they don't have enough heels. They really don't have enough heels. There's too many faces going on.
Yeah. They could use, like, that guy that throws fans' belts around that they paid $400 for. They could use somebody like that.
I guess so. Next up, the Bella Twins. You remember that breakup, Jimmy?
You're going to have to help me here, because you've just now listed the ultimate reason why women's wrestling in general was a turnoff to me. I can't stand the Bella Twins. The one time I will give respect was when I believe who fought Ronda? Nikki? That was awesome.
Well, when they started pushing Nikki, that's when she ends up turning on her sister, right?
Right.
Again, very forgettable. Very forgettable.
Especially to this co-host. Yeah.
But let me ask you, even though you hate the Bella Twins, you have to give them credit for what they meant for the industry, right?
Yeah, I don't want to be like ignorant about it, because then you're not really being wrestling historically responsible. They definitely were stars that transcended. There's no doubt about it. Look, the reality shows and stuff like that, whether I'm a fan of that or not is irrelevant. Their impact in the business in a positive financial gain way towards future women wrestlers is obvious. That's obvious. But if you keep making me say nice things about the Bellas, I'm going to have to take some Dramamine, because I'm starting to feel nauseous.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Again, I
respect them, though. I still respect them regardless. I don't feel that either of them could wrestle a lick, all right? Especially in the beginning. I was like, oh, my God, what are you serving me, Vince? That's what I was thinking, Mike. But I did very much enjoy the Rousey-Bella match, and I was like, okay. Little tip of the cap. Got to give you a tip of the cap. That was good.
I give both those Cold Girls credit, because again, they're the spark that gets everything going.
Right.
Next up at number 5, Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero.
Now, Mike, before we start this, though, what is our final judgment on the Bellas? Is it an epic fail that they broke up because Nikki did ascend?
I think because Nikki did ascend, and she was what at the time the longest reigning diva champion of all time at that point, right?
Right.
So, and Bree with Daniel again, they're still
Right.
they're Hall of Famers. Can't take that away from them.
Well, a lot of these folks on this list are going to be or already are. So that too.
Honestly, now that we're discussing it, I don't think any of these breakups were a failure for one.
Right.
Maybe a failure for the other. In the
we
case
really
of the
only
Bellas,
have one. We really only have one clean sweep, and that's Kevin and Sammy.
Exactly. But I would say that in the case of the Bellas, they're close to Kevin and Sammy because that breakup didn't hurt either one of them. And I think Bree was on her way out anyway.
Right.
How about Eddie and Ray?
What for custody of Dominic? Remember little Dominic? Do you remember that kid? Oh my God, dude, that was one of the most ridiculous angles I have ever witnessed. Why did I like it? Not the angle, but the actual contest between the two.
It was great. It was great, dude. How could you deny it? It's like, again, two iconic Mexican wrestlers, right? It's
Lucha Libre de Profesional, baby.
Unbelievable.
Yep. Great.
I got to ask this question, man. I know, like, you were a huge fan of Eddie Guerrero, and I was too, right? We talked about how jacked up he was when he came to WCW and all that shit. And I feel like they're not telling the truth about his death. I don't know why.
Why would you feel that way?
Well, I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but it's like he got clean, and then he was feeling tired, and then he died. And it certainly can happen, but I almost feel like, a lot of times when people are addicts, right, and they break it, no matter 10 years, 20 years, the problem is when they go back to something, they take the same amount that they were taking when they were full addicts. And that's when the body says, I'm done. I can't handle all this. And I'm not saying he did anything. All I'm saying is I just felt like the guy was in such great shape. I find it amazing. Because how old was he when he died? 30 something?
I think he was 38, but Mike, it doesn't surprise me. Eddie did a lot of things to his body that his heart said, nope, no more. I'm comfortable with that. At the end of the day, I don't think there was anything foul play behind it. I don't think.
I'm not saying foul play, but I almost feel I don't think that he might have been going on.
I don't think that he. Personally, you're asking me my opinion. I don't feel that he probably went and had a relapse of any kind. I think Eddie lived fast and hard, and wore his emotions on his sleeve. And
dude, it's just so hard to figure this stuff out because it's like, even when we had Barbara Goodish on, right, and I asked her about, hey, did Frank tell you anything about David Von Erich? And she's like, nah, I think he just died. But but then you hear the story that Bruiser was the first one in the room and threw all the drugs down the toilet because he didn't want to embarrass the family name. And people tell that story. It's like you never ever really know what the truth is. And I don't think Barbara's lying. I think Barbara's telling her truth. Right?
I'll tell you what I think the truth is. I mean, and again, it's just my opinion. But if Bruiser Brody was the only one and the first one to find him, if he's supposedly dumping all the drugs and all that other stuff, who the fuck is he telling afterwards? That would be no one.
Right.
So this to me is just people throwing shit out there and trying to see if it sticks. I don't know where you read it, but that's just my personal opinion.
Well, I've heard it, right? So,
right.
I've heard it again.
Right.
Again, I'm not an expert, so it's like I just wonder.
Right. Well, I mean, I know that David had a lot of intestinal problems that, as you recall, it's been 8 years now, but I almost died from the very same thing that happened to David. So.
Yeah, no, I get it. I totally get it. Yeah. And, so number 4.
Yep.
Edge and Christian. Now, enlighten me on this, dude, because I do not really remember this at all.
I don't either. I got to be honest. I don't recall it. I don't recall it at all.
It happened. Like, I remember it happening, but I just don't remember it.
Right.
obviously I put it high on the list because it's Edge and Christian, and I mean,
right.
These are two icons.
Was Christian one of the many that were making out with Trish Stratus back in the day, and did she have something to do with it?
Well, I got to tell you what, though. I will say this. From what I've read, is Vince was not a real fan of
Christian.
He just and I get it. I understand why you wouldn't be. You know what I mean?
Right. Like you said, not a memorable breakup. Edge obviously, went on to superstardom. There's nothing to really debate there. Even though I was never a fan of either, by the way, Mike, ever. They used to win those big matches, and I'd get so irritated. I was like, man, I can't stand Edge and Christian. But that was
even when he was a rated R superstar, though.
He did nothing. He did nothing for me. He never did. He never did anything for me. I guess the coolest he ever got to me was the whole thing with Lita and Matt. Outside of that, he's never done that much for me. I don't look at him. That's funny. I should ask you that. I know how you usually look at what a world champion should look like. Does he really have enough of an aura? I know he's built and stuff like that, but does he really have enough of an aura, or does it really matter anyway? Because the fans fucking love him, so it doesn't really matter what I'm saying here.
So to me, when Edge was the rated R superstar,
right,
he had world champion written all over him, right?
So there was some greatness. I understand.
I will tell you this, Christian,
right?
I was never a fan of. And when they made him the world champion, remember when they brought that big belt? I think he was on SmackDown.
Boring.
I never got Christian. And I got to be honest with you, when I hear the so-called wrestling experts talk about Christian and AEW being the greatest, or one of the great mic men, heels, I'm like, I have not been getting Christian ever. But again, that's me. Am I going to deny the fact that the guy should be in a Hall of Fame? No, he deserves to be just because he was on that tag team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, as far as his WWE contributions, absolutely. Because individually, I felt he was a total bust. I don't care if they put the belt on him.
I got to tell you, too, I feel kind of awful that everything is WWE heavy.
Well, to be fair to Christian, Christian's post-WWE career, especially his work in AEW, has been fantastic. I am not a fan of Christian, but I am not going to sit here and tell you that he's not done a great job in AEW. He has. He's been fantastic. I never knew that he could be that good. I never saw that side of him in WWE. So I guess, to be fair, independently, it's been nothing but a plus for Christian that happened the day he left WWE. Will he ever return? Well, not at this point, I don't think. You know what I mean? What would he come back with Edge one last time? Maybe. But his WWE career, look, on paper, it says that it was a success. I personally don't feel that it was.
Which I totally get, dude. Which I totally get.
Right. This is not. All right. This is not Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn as far as the success level post breakup WWE. That's for sure. Go ahead.
The Mega Powers. The Mega Powers at number 3. Now, I know you always felt they weren't really a tag team, which I totally understand. Hard to argue with.
Right.
Thoughts on the Mega Powers?
Well, oddly enough, even though I never considered them tag team like I would when I think of a Demolition or the Road Warriors or, Tully and Arn or whoever, this breakup is the greatest of all the breakups I think we've been to at this point on this list, unless I'm missing something. This breakup was huge. Oh my God! This breakup was larger than life. This breakup was Alfred Hitchcock directing. This was fantastic stuff.
Yeah, no, it was. It really, it should be. Well, it's number 3, so I think that's fair. And by the way, B40 brings up Sting and Barry Windham, Luger and Barry Windham, which is
right.
You know what? I can't believe I forgot about that. Now that I'm thinking about it, like, oh my God, that was one of the great storytelling of all time.
It was. Well, let's discuss that briefly. I mean, what is that? We're talking, what year are we at this point?
It's got to be 88, 87, 88, right? And then the one thing that was wonderful about that, Jimmy, was when, Luger turns on Wyndham and Luger's the heel. And then when Luger and a Horseman get into it, Wyndham comes back to his aid and ends up turning on him and then going to the Horseman. That was some fucking great storytelling, man.
Well, you know what? We just got another tag team where the breakup was a success.
Well, I think one of the main things we're starting to find out here is that most of these tag teams are broken up because they're going to be successful. Just because we don't see the New Day being successful doesn't mean they will be. Odds are I don't think they will be. Though, Jimmy. I got to be honest with you.
Right. Yeah, but let's think about it, though. So far, we've said that we've only got Kevin and Sammy. But if you think about it, Lex post-breakup, Barry joins the Horseman post-breakup, correct?
Yeah.
It looks like we've got another win-win.
No, I agree.
All right, so there's two. We'll call that 10A since we already have our 10. But who's at the next spot?
We've got Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho. You've made the list. And I got to tell you, I brought this up only because it's so recent and it was so good. I mean, to call them one of the great tag teams, I don't know if that would be the case, but, and we all know the story behind it, that it was set to be a WrestleMania main event and ended up being like the second match on the card.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, you don't have to necessarily put them in your top 10 all-time great tag teams, but when you think about the duration of the list and the teaming and the high profile, they were definitely at the top of the card. They were the most enjoyable spot every week. True or false, Mike? For how long? How long? The breakup was unbelievable. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, isn't that when he looks at it, he goes, "Why is my name on this list?"
That was so good, man.
Kabang, Unfortunately, you are aware that how much Vince McMahon hated their match, by the way.
Yes, I've heard Jericho talk about it. He thought it was the drizzling shits for sure.
Yeah, but what a breakup! Wow, is it a win-win though? Ha. How many years ago was this, please?
Got to be like 3 or 4 years ago. Again, my timing could be off, right?
Yeah.
But it's a win-win.
A little longer.
I mean, you know how I feel about Jericho. I think you feel the same. That time to call it a day. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you listen to the wrestlers out there, they think he's still doing some of his greatest work. I got to disagree with that.
I disagree with that too.
But but win-win. At number 1 will be this.
Wow.
Ooh. Number 1.
Still looks great today, doesn't it?
It's again one of the great angles of all time.
And it's the greatest turn in the history of the business, as far as I'm concerned.
But you knew it was coming, right? You knew it was coming. Right. So back to the beginning. This New Day thing is coming. Is it going to happen? I guess is my point. And will let me ask you this. Will tag team wrestling ever be in a place where, how do I put it, that it affects fans like ourselves as much as the Rockers breakup?
Well, it's been in a place a few times in our lives. If you look back historically, the Road Warriors, it was in its place. You understand what I'm saying? The Road Warriors were like a look, as top a tier as you're going to get as a fan, as far as a reaction and everything else. They were the shit. All right, because then you had Demolition, then you had the Hart Foundation, you had et cetera, et cetera. I could go on and on. All right, then you have to wait a little while, and you've got the TLC era, where you do have the Dudley Boys and the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian. You have that, When will it get back to that again? Honestly, the New Day and the Usos, even though they had a legendary feud, does nothing for me in comparison to the previous timepieces in history that I just referred to. So I don't know.
You just mentioned the Usos. I gotta consider that an epic fail, dude. You know what I mean? I'm not for Jay,
no,
but
for Jimmy.
As far as like the emotion of getting a tag team breakup. See, that's the thing I think we're missing here, the emotion of getting the tag team breakup. Like, we went over the Dudleys, nothing there. The breakup, it didn't help at all. Edge and Christian, it helped careers, but it didn't help.
Nothing major.
Like, there was nothing there. The Bellas, the Steiners,
Who cares?
To B40's case, probably the most, even the Rockers breakup, it was flat. There was no feud there. It just ended. It was like one went on to heights and the other one went on to where we know where he is, right?
Right. Agreed.
Now, on the other hand, the B40, I mean, Wyndham and Luger, there was some shit went on there for a little while. Like, there was investment in on both ends when either one turned on the other, I think, right?
Right. And oddly enough, the Uso match was also very disappointing, correct?
Oh, it was awful, dude.
There you go.
But, then, if you listen to them, their time was cut and, they had all this stuff planned. But I don't feel that people were so much. Look, you've got to you've got to be engaged.
They were not engaged. No, I didn't care.
And I would say Jericho Owens, there was definitely engagement there.
Oh, there was definitely engagement there. You know what? There was engagement, and there was never a breakup. Let me tell you who had the power of engagement. When Demolition stared at each other across the ring because they were the first two.
Oh, that was fucking awesome, dude.
Okay.
That was one of the great
and that didn't even happen. And that had more engagement than a lot of these.
Well, no, they started punching each other. I remember.
Right,
and then,
right.
And then Andre came in and they started beating the shit out of Andre.
Right.
That was fucking awesomeness.
Right. I mean,
I would think I think the biggest one, dude, would be Mega Powers.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as the fallout of it.
All right, we're gonna go over the Survivor Series, our predictions. We're gonna try to predict what we're gonna see. And then I think we're gonna do a post Survivor Series show also.
We are,
yeah. So
when the hell is
get
that
ready
supposed
for that.
to be? I got to check my schedule, but okay,
yeah, check your schedule, please.
All right.
All right, so let's open up with you telling me that you didn't think the card was very good.
Well, on the surface, it's not something that's making me do somersaults. I got Gunther and Priest. I got Knight and Nakamura. I've got Candice LeRae in their 5-on-5. Why am I excited? Tell me why I'm so excited.
Well, I
do love that. Look, we got the Bloodline. Yeah, I'm excited about that. But everything else, I'm looking at the card. I'm like, wow, Survivor Series? Boy, you better have some interesting turns and shit. Something.
United States title match, LA Knight, Shinsuke Nakamura. Now he just appears and gets a title shot. I don't even understand that, but hey, you tell me how that works.
Well, that's because they've been playing with the legend of Shinsuke Nakamura his entire WWE career. Because Shinsuke Nakamura is a legend, and Shinsuke Nakamura is in my personal top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time. By the way, okay. He looks great this time around, by the way, just visually. Once again, Shinsuke, anything and everything, but he's a good company man, Mike. Let's face it, okay? Anytime and every time they've asked him to come back and do something, or just to do something that's not the Shinsuke Nakamura that made me show you a YouTube videotape over a decade ago, and I had a shirt that I ordered from Japan with him on it. This isn't that Nakamura. It bothers me because on the surface, to me, Nakamura should fucking win this match.
Well,
LA Knight is no Shinsuke Nakamura.
Well, I'm going to make the prediction. I'm going to make the prediction that Shinsuke is going to win the United States Championship.
I would be shocked to shit. I would fairly say that 7 out of 10 so-called wrestling, predictions will probably say that LA Knight will walk out of there with that belt.
Well, what does the wrestling expert Jimmy Farrow say?
I am not a wrestling expert. I appreciate the praise. Logically, I feel like LA Knight's going to walk out of there with it. But if I'm booking it, Shinsuke Nakamura is walking out of there with it. But where's been the build-up, Michael? There's no build-up, and then what do you do with LA Knight afterwards? Shinsuke is a hired gun, it feels like now.
All right, so first of all, we discussed that the WWE doesn't have enough heels.
Right.
So the United States Championship is something you could kind of throw up there, have LA Knight lose it, and then chase Shinsuke Nakamura to WrestleMania. at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Is that really the plan for Shinsuke Nakamura? Do you really believe that that's what they have in mind for Shinsuke Nakamura?
I'm going to put my reputation on the line and say everything that I predict here when we have our post show tomorrow night. You're going to say, Monty, you hit it on the head. So I'm going with Shinsuke Nakamura is winning the U.S. heavyweight title.
Well, I like your train of thought, so I'll just agree with you because that's what I want to see have happen.
World title. Oops, sorry. Intercontinental title. Braun Breaker versus Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser.
Interesting that Ludwig finally gets a little higher profile kind of match. What do you think about that, first of all?
Oof. Okay, so Braun Breaker, future star. Ludwig Kaiser, they need to build him as a heel. You could see there's starting to be problems. Again, the whole Gunther thing's starting to bother me. I don't know where they're going with this. My heart says Ludwig wins this match and wins the title. But then I was talking to you before the show, and you're like, Sheamus has never won the IC title. Good opportunity to give him the IC title. He could lose it fairly quickly. But then I think to myself, where does this leave Braun Breaker?
Well, I just read something very concerning that their current plans for Braun Breaker is to be a tweener. What the fuck is a tweener, Mike, to you? What does that sound like?
I guess he just fights whoever, which I guess is okay. You know what I mean?
Why is that okay? I mean, Braun Breaker should be like beelining for the world championship.
He's still got to sit on the IC belt for a while. I mean, this one, Jimmy, this one is a tough one because it's like this one, I'm going to make a prediction because I just have to make a prediction. But to me, this one, I have no idea who's going to win, but I will go with they're not going to take the belt off a Breaker. Breaker wins this match.
If I'm booking the match, I keep the belt on Breaker too. So I'm going to agree with your prediction. However, if this is one of those situations where Sheamus can pin Kaiser and win the title, if you're ever going to give it to Sheamus, is this how you give it to Sheamus? So there's that question. I
think that's the way you do it.
Do you ever give Sheamus ultimately that final championship to complete his cycle? I think you do.
Well, this is the time. This is your one moment. This is your one chance.
I don't believe that it's their one chance. I think that they'll find some other way to spin it down the road if they, I think that Breaker should win.
You don't seem like you think Ludwig has a chance here.
I don't believe he should. I would be surprised by it. I don't think he's shown me enough that he should already have this sort of title. But you got to prove a lot to me, before I'm ready to hand you a strap, unless I instantly think you have something that is just undeniable. If you're a Braun Breaker, it's undeniable. If you're a Gunther, it's undeniable.
I think Braun Breaker wins, but I think Ludwig Kaiser will eventually defeat Braun Breaker.
Very interesting, because I believe if he had not been hurt, it would have been Dragunov, who still may return, and Breaker may be still holding that belt when Dragunov
I'm not
returns.
a big Dragunov guy, but
I am.
Yeah, I get it. I understand.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
World Heavyweight Championship. Gunther versus Damian Priest.
Gunther should win this one, and I would be very upset at any other decision.
Highly concerned about the Gunther character now.
I don't know why you are. Could you break it down for me why you are?
Because they're starting to show holes in him not being this beast anymore.
He lost to Sami Zayn.
Yeah, but he fixed that. He fixed that by winning King of the Ring.
He definitely fixed it. So let's get to these holes.
By beating. So far, he tried to attack Damian Priest.
Right.
Priest got the upper hand on him, hurt him. They tried to recover last week with that. The other thing, he's more of a nicer guy now. He's not this beast that will just fuck you up at any moment. And I feel like they're trying to show. It's almost to a point that a fan could believe they're trying to turn him face.
Bad idea.
I agree, but that's the feeling I'm getting.
I'm not getting that feeling at all. Maybe I need to go back and look at some tapes of Gunther recently, but I've watched all the recent stuff with Gunther. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing what WWE does so well. They are posing the question. You see, you have to, as a booker, offer a fan a legitimate question. Does the challenger, which they haven't done that much with Cody Rhodes, by the way, does the challenger have enough to possibly take this belt off the champion? That is the question. And by doing what they've been doing with Priest and Gunther right now, it is reestablishing the fact that Damian Priest was the champion. Now, however you may feel about his reign, doesn't matter. They are reestablishing the fact that he was the champion. All right, so they're making him look strong. You don't want him coming into a world heavyweight title match against Gunther looking, weak. All right, Gunther. What was the one thing you loved so much about Roman Reigns' reign? Was that there was always a point in the match where you were like, "Oh crap, he's going to lose."
Right. Yeah. Sure.
Okay. All I think is that their sleight of hand here, this particular booking of this particular matchup, is to make Gunther look a little bit fragile. You use the word weak. I'll say a little bit fragiled by it. Okay, which will add intrigue when the match actually happens. It might actually turn out to be a pretty damn good match.
Well,
But
I think Priest is a good wrestler. Gunther obviously is a great wrestler.
right.
I think I agree with you, and I think what was it, the SummerSlam match? There was that interference or whatever happened with Judgment Day.
Right.
I think we might have the opportunity to watch these two actually have a solid match.
Right, which I hope they will have, and I believe that Gunther should walk out of there the same way he walked in with the belt.
I'm going to agree with you. Gunther will retain, but I'm still concerned over the character. Next up, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Bayley filling in for the injured Jade Cargill, Io Sky, and Naomi. First, Liv Morgan, Nia Jax, Raquel Rodriguez, Tiffany Stratton, and Candice LeRae. Remember, this is a Hell in a Cell match. This is not a standard Survivor Series match. So once someone loses, I believe that is all. Is that correct, Jimmy?
You're going to have to carry me on this match because I can't stand this match.
Tell me why.
I just don't. I'm not that interested. I'm just not that interested in the matchup. I just don't. It doesn't. It's not. It's not. There's too many questions about it. Which is good. Obviously, you want the questions, but I am fairly aware that Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch are right around the corner. So, and I know that they're coming soon. So I don't know really what the end result's going to be for this match. I feel like the faces.
Well, I think the end result is pretty simple, right? I mean, you threw in Candice LeRae because she's going to take the shot, right?
Right. I feel like the faces should win the match, but is there a return of any kind? When do we get that?
Here is the problem. Jade Cargill was attacked. No one knows who it is.
Right.
So you've got multiple things here. One, the simple route. Was it Bayley so she could get into this match? Who, by the way, we all know Bianca Belair hates, right? Because of what was it called? What's the name of their team that used to be Damage Control, right? So she hates it. So that's one. Then you have the interesting thing we spoke about Naomi during this week, right? You told me that Naomi, look, she's nothing. Well, I forget what you said, but you used the right words.
She's the drizzling shits.
Well, so she's a good wrestler, dude. I'm going to disagree.
I didn't say she wasn't a good wrestler. I'm just saying her presentation and her overall aura do absolutely
it doesn't seem to be hitting the mark. This is a perfect opportunity for Naomi to be the jealous of the third, attacking Jade Cargill, right? And then ultimately, okay, so I would say Bayley would be the safe, easy choice to get around this, right?
Right.
And then you have Naomi would be like, you could get her into some prominence. You know, we spoke about it. She joins Bloodline 2.0, and then you got Jimmy. That's my wife. Now what's he thinking? You know what I mean? What does he do? There's a lot to that. But then probably the ultimate thing is Bianca Belair becoming a heel and kind of going on what we've been talking about, her carrying Jade through this whole process and getting sick of her.
Right.
And here comes that turn.
Right.
And then you just brought up Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch.
Right around the corner.
Could be one of those. Hey, it's Charlotte Flair. She did it. Is there a reveal at War Games, or is there no reveal yet on what happened to Jade Cargill?
I would like to think there's got to be a reveal on somewhere on this card, because again, this card. Then again, if Shinsuke Nakamura wins the title, that's a holy shit. You know what I mean? A reveal would be nice. This card's going to need some pizzazz. That's more than just what we're reading on the sheet, as far as the matchups go. If you understand what I'm getting at, I don't know what way this match is going to go, and I honestly don't care. Make me care. Do something that makes me go, holy shit, what that will be, I don't know. Should it be Bianca who put her through that windshield? Do we have enough time to get to WrestleMania right now, or is there too much time to get to WrestleMania? Is it too soon for it to be Bianca that did this to Jade? Is it the perfect timing for Naomi? And even more concerning, I read something today that there may possibly be, and of course it's the internet, so who the F knows, but there may possibly be a Bloodline 3.0. And I don't know if you've read that one,
Really?
Mike. But, yeah, but it's like,
I have
oh my
not
God.
read that one.
Well, don't forget that the head of the table, the big boss man, The Rock, what's his role in all of this?
Well, we haven't gotten to that point, right?
Right. And if Naomi turns, what's her role? Does she just simply join 2.0 and force Jimmy into a decision? Another good point is Roman has not changed. Roman hasn't changed his character. Roman is not being like, when these guys are like, it made me sick, by the way. You talked about how recently you feel like Roman's getting weakened a little bit, maybe almost in the same way as Gunther. So I looked back on the history of the Bloodline, and some of the things that Jey Uso said to Roman about coming back to the Bloodline, coming back to the OTC, we're equals now. You do one thing to me disrespectful, and I'm out of here, and blah, 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 blah. And I thought to myself, and on the whole time, Roman's not apologizing for it.
Well, we were talking before we went on air. They had the CM Punk Roman Reigns square off, right?
Right.
So, Roman hasn't changed. But again, I think
I like that.
Well, I think the point is they're using sorry, dude. I'm losing a little. I don't know why I'm losing some.
Why? I'm losing a little
internet service here, so I had to reboot on one of my other computers. Roman hasn't changed, dude. But the problem is now everybody hates Roman. Everybody hates Roman, which I love, right? Because you shouldn't forgive Roman for all he's done. But before we get to that, let's finish it off. We're just saying that the faces will win this, and there'll be no reveal of what's going on there, right?
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
But I don't know. I'm not sure. I really want to see it be Naomi or Bianca. I don't want it to be Charlotte Flair. That would be very disappointing to me.
Yeah, we don't need that as a return. I'm sure there's something else.
She could return and then be friends, and then it'll be revealed later on. Like someone will uncover some video, and it was Charlotte Flair. And to me, that's old WWE booking, lame, safe nonsense.
Right. Well, it's Naomi. She did it for The Rock.
Well, the Naomi thing makes a lot of sense, dude. And for her to join the Bloodline, I think you could really do good work there. All right, the main event, the original Bloodline, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso versus the new Bloodline, Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Tangaloa, and Bronson Reed.
Oh, I love this matchup, don't you? This matchup I definitely want to see. There's so many questions going on here. I love this matchup. I mean, this stuff I'm reading about, Heyman's going to turn on Roman and Punk.
All right, let's start there. Heyman turning on the OG makes no sense whatsoever. And if it happens, it's utterly stupid. Now, saying that, if Heyman was to turn on the OG, the only thing that would make sense is if The Rock came out and he sided with The Rock.
I could see that.
Okay.
If you're going to do something like that.
If you're going to do that, to me is the only route. Here's my next question to you, Jimmy.
Yeah.
If we don't get The Rock for this WrestleMania, because again, I've already said what I felt. I felt that The Rock is going to face Cody at Royal Rumble, win the belt of Royal Rumble, and he's going to wrestle Roman Reigns, who's going to win the Royal Rumble at WrestleMania. Anything short of that doesn't make any sense, because what did last WrestleMania mean? What did The Rock whispering in Cody Rhodes' ear mean?
You know what I can't get past?
Wait, last one. What did The Rock coming out at the last Premium Live event, looking at his watch, mean if this isn't going to happen?
I can't answer as to what any of those things meant, but the one thing I can't get past is what I call the rubber match. There have been 2 great WrestleMania matches between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. I do believe that there's going to be a third one. I don't know why. My gut tells me that logically there will be a third one, a third rubber match, which I do believe Roman will either A, come in as the champion, which I some reason don't see that. For some reason, I feel by the time WrestleMania comes, Roman is back to being Roman and being the Roman we love and remember, and everyone, a lot of people hate. And I feel like there will be a rubber match with Cody Rhodes, the darling of the fans and the darling of the company currently, and Roman will win that rubber match.
To me, listen, I agree with you. There's got to be a rubber match, but that rubber match has to take place after Cody turns heel. We've got to get this to a point, Jimmy, where people hate everybody but Roman.
I don't think that the circumstances would be convincing enough to convince the fans that Cody Rhodes is the one to hate and Roman is the one to love. Roman has not changed one iota, yet is loved because of the situation he is currently in. Everyone hates Bloodline 2.0. Everyone. I hate him.
Yeah,
I hate him. Okay? Roman Reigns does not need to change. I don't want Roman Reigns to change. And I do want Roman Reigns to eventually revert back to the Roman Reigns that was the bad guy that everyone hated. I loved that Roman Reigns. This Roman Reigns I still love because he acts the same. It's the situation that currently holds him as a face. All right? It's not going to remain that way. I don't believe it's going to remain that way.
Well, again, I think also we've discussed this on ESPN. Cody Rhodes has been a real condescending champion. Right? He uses big words, not for the common man, not like his father.
Right.
He wears his suit.
Right.
The way he presents his conversation, even with Kevin Owens. Let's discuss this. Right? So we got Saturday night's main event. So we got a pay-per-view without the champion in the event, a major premium live, right?
Right.
Which says a lot for the company, by the way.
Right.
But even with the remember we spoke earlier about Kofi and Xavier, right? That both bring up great points. Kevin said to Cody last week, I spent 4 years fighting these guys. I backed you up. I helped you. And you team with this guy?
Right.
And then Randy backs you up on it?
Right.
Fuck that.
Right.
And then Cody with his condescending thing is like, you hate yourself, Kevin Owens, and blah, blah, blah. Jimmy, I hear what you're saying. I just, look, again, I could be 100% wrong. I just feel like anything short of The Rock winning the title and losing it to Roman doesn't make any sense to me. Tonight, Roman tells CM Punk, I don't like you. CM Punk says, I don't like you. Why are you here? I'm here for your advocate. Paul Heyman, and when this is over, he owes me something. And then Roman asked Paul, and Paul goes, let's not talk about this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about it after Survivor Series. We need CM Punk. And I'm thinking to myself, where are we going with this? It's getting to a point like, are we covering all bases as the WWE because you're not sure The Rock is going to come? So now you got to figure out other ways around it. Like, here's my question to you, Jimmy. I guess I'm running all over the place, but it's like, is Roman going to feud with CM Punk now? Or is Seth coming out tomorrow night and attacking CM Punk, starting that feud?
I would side with that train of thought as much more of a possibility that Seth comes out there and attacks Punk.
So if that happens and the OG bloodline wins tomorrow night, where does Roman go from here? Cody's fighting Sammy. CM Punk's with Seth Rollins. Where, again, let me ask you something. Does The Rock Roman at WrestleMania, not for the title, just for the head of the table, mean everything? Does it matter? Does it have to be a title match? To me, it does.
Yeah.
To me, there has to be more on the line.
I would like the title to be involved for sure. What we could be looking at, because you pose a great question. What does it mean for Roman, the end result of this upcoming match? It makes the most sense to me, as much as I hate this booking decision, but it makes the most sense to me storyline that somehow Punk and Roman have a problem that cost them the match. If you have that kind of situation, then you're looking at, because what does this do for Roman? Roman winds up sidetracked in a feud with Punk. I don't know what that does, though, for the Bloodline feud. That doesn't make sense to me.
Then again, what does that do for Seth? What does that do for Seth?
Is this the end of the Bloodline feud? I mean, what is this? What is the bottom line of this feud? And how is this the end of the Bloodline feud when you've got others involved like a Bronson Reed and a Punk?
I think this should be the end of the Bloodline feud with Solo Sikoa running the Bloodline.
Right.
If The Rock they win tomorrow night, and The Rock comes out, and he comes in the middle of the ring, and then he turns on. Now, again, now I could be utterly ridiculous here, but it's like The Rock comes out. He goes face to face with Roman.
Does Roman now have possession?
He has possession. So The Rock comes out, right?
All right. And Rock bottoms him.
Well, no. The Rock doesn't do anything. Sami Zayn, CM Punk, all attack Roman Reigns.
Why?
Because The Rock's in charge. And the rest of the Bloodline 2.0 beat the shit out of the Usos because the Usos don't turn on Roman, right?
And then The Rock puts it on himself?
Exactly. And now Paul Heyman's with The Rock, CM Punk's with The Rock, Sami Zayn's with The Rock. They're all with 2.0.
Fucking, that's crazy to me.
But does that intrigue you?
It intrigues me, but what the hell does that do for Punk? Punk is destined to be champion.
And that's the problem. People love the WWE right now loves CM Punk. So now if you try to put him in this situation,
I wouldn't.
But say you did. Are you so sure the fans are going to go with you on this?
No. And besides, it's Heyman who owes Punk the favor. Sounds like Punk is now giving 2 favors to Heyman by joining going with Heyman.
Well, here's the one thing.
Punk does not need to be with The Rock. He doesn't. He doesn't. He's one of them. He doesn't need to be with The Rock. His star is huge. He doesn't need to do that. What would he do that for? And he told Heyman, you owe me something. I want to know even more. What is that something?
Well, here's the thing. Maybe you owe me something will be you're now my manager. You're my guy now. You're my tribal chief. Because I can tell you what, The Rock, this happens with The Rock tomorrow night. Monday Night Raw, you don't need The Rock. All you need is CM Punk come out and say, I'm, this and that. And this also, again, I'm getting a little elaborate here, but this also allows Seth Rollins now to get back with Roman because they've been building that whole thing too. Like, I hate you, Roman. I hate you, Seth, little brother. Now, all of a sudden, Seth hates CM Punk. They beat the shit out of Roman. Seth Rollins now feuding with CM Punk. And eventually, where you get to WrestleMania, it becomes Gunther, CM Punk, and Seth in a match. Or
that'd be great.
Maybe somewhere along the line, CM Punk just beats Gunther, and in WrestleMania, it's Seth Rollins against CM Punk.
Could be.
Again, this seems very elaborate. It sounds a lot of ridiculousness in it.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of could be's, but that's the beauty of this particular matchup. We really don't know where it's going to go. You know, I've read multiple so-called experts, you know, and I hate using the word myself, but a lot of them don't even want to touch this one because it's really hard to see which direction they're going to go with this. There's so many questions involved, and it's because of the insertion of one guy, CM Punk. He's done it again. He's done it again, Punk. You know, and I did point out to you when I talked to you during the week, when you finally have that Roman Reigns Punk stare down, who are the fans chanting? CM Punk. That's who they're chanting for. You know, can I explain that? Do we have another 4 hours? But you know what I'm saying.
But how can you stop that? You stop it with them turning tomorrow night. Because listen, everybody's expecting either Sami Zayn or CM Punk to turn, and then you've got people talking about Paul Heyman turning. Paul Heyman turning by himself makes absolutely no sense. Right. You just 3 months ago got put through a table or whatever it is.
Right.
You know, this isn't Eric Bischoff and WCW where all of a sudden you're friends with the NWO after they threw you through the stage.
Right.
That, you know, in itself, that was dumb.
The only acceptance I have for Heyman turning is very far-fetched, but it's the only one that I will buy. Okay, and I did notice that recently he got put back on the roster. Let's just say the match goes fine, okay, and you know, Roman gets the win, yada yada yada, and then all of a sudden, Heyman brings out the only way I would buy Paul Heyman saying, "Fuck you for not calling me after they all attacked and beat the shit out of me. Fuck you for beating the shit out of me." Ladies and gentlemen, Brock Lesnar, who proceeds to Brock Lesnar everybody, basically. And Heyman leaves with Brock Lesnar because it's Lion King to me. Where you start is where you finish. And I would love to see that.
I will agree with you this. Heyman cannot remain a face. He's not a face, and it just is not sustainable. He's got to do something here.
Right.
Let's not forget the one thing we didn't discuss is Bloodline 2.0 could win this field. And you know who we're forgetting too is Jacob Fatu, which we just had his father in, is on a rocket ship right now, right? So it's all the things that we're making right now puts Jacob Fatu in such a background.
How do we know Fatu? How do we know Fatu doesn't screw Sikoa and go with Roman? Oh man,
Jimmy. I'm going to tell you right now, I kind of feel like that might happen.
That would be unbelievable. That to me would be, I would mark out all over the place. You see, that would be received well.
But then you would need everybody to turn on Roman. Listen, I will tell you this. You know, either Sami Zayn or CM Punk are turning on Roman tomorrow night.
We will see. Something big is going to come out of this match.
I will tell you, you know what would be the ultimate letdown? The match is just a match, and there's a winner, and that's it.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
They put the credits on.
And that's happened plenty of times.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Well, I definitely know what you mean, being friends with you for all these years, because for 5 years now, I've been hearing every freaking major pay-per-view. This is it, Pharaoh. Here he comes. Here comes The Rock.
It eventually came.
It eventually came, but I mean, you know, even a blind squirrel finds a nut. Mean, what are you talking about?
You're right.
It's like the Jets. Jesus Christ, stop with The Rock, you know.
No, that blind squirrel's not, you know.
But you're
right
about.
By the way, you brought up football. We finally found a team worse than the Jets. How about those Bears, man? My God, how bad are they with their
Are they really truly worse than the Jets, though?
Dude, yesterday's game against the Lions, dude.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, they found a coach worse than the Jets. I mean, that's only something the Jets wouldn't do.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. You know, The Bears are an interesting franchise because if you look at all the championships, I think that they're right behind the Packers. Not right behind them, but they're up there with the Giants, the Packers, the Bears.
Right.
As far as NFL/Super Bowl. In our lifetime, we saw the Bears win once, and that's going to be 40 years ago next year, right?
Yep.
So it's weird with the Bears. You know that they have history, but they've obviously been very jet-like, especially recently. Who would have thought after getting Caleb Williams that they would stink this much? But that's kind of alarming because I feel like the Jets are the worst in the world by far. They're the worst franchise in America by far, and they have the postseason drought to prove it. Everything about them from top to bottom is bad. They're just bad.
Well, that being said, we'll see you guys tomorrow night for the Survivor Series War Games, where we'll be doing a post show. I'll put that up, so hopefully you'll join us. And
hopefully I can join you.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Right.
I mean, Christ Almighty. I mean, I'm usually asleep by now. This is but I want to thank everybody for hanging in with us. I really do hope that War Games doesn't let us down, dude. Because I got to tell you, we got a let down premium live event like this. It'll be bad.
Right. On paper, I'm not thrilled, but we'll see how it gets executed pretty much. And then we can always go on with Coach on ESPN down here in Northwest Florida and make fun of the whole thing.
Exactly. Send us out, big guy. I'll see you tomorrow.
You got it. You've been watching Monte and the Pharaoh. And until tomorrow night, enjoy Survivor Series. Later.
The Monte and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite 4-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.